What percentage of people here do you think are living on Section 8 or on government benefits?
A lot, bro.
How much money do you think someone needs to have in their bank account to be living here on Billionaire Row?
At least $1 million, I think.
However, we need Section 8 to survive. Otherwise, how can we do it?
On average, their rents will be anywhere between like $250 and $500.
It's about $4,000 for a small studio.
How hard is it to survive in New York City? New York City is the largest city in America with the most people, highest prices, and there's a reason why they call this place the concrete jungle. Simply because everyone is just trying to survive. And with rents being the highest in all of America at $4,500 a month for an average apartment in New York City, it's increasingly making it harder to survive. Between the rich and the poor, the wealth gap couldn't be larger. While you have some people living in $100 million apartments, you also have over 500,000 people living in government housing programs like Section 8. New York City is split into 5 boroughs, with Manhattan being the wealthiest and the Bronx being the poorest. In this video, I'm going to take you through the roughest parts of New York City and all the way to Billionaire Row to show you just how hard it is to survive and exposing the methods the government uses to keep you trapped in poverty. Let's start by heading to the lowest income borough and go to the Bronx. How hard would you say it is to survive here in the Bronx?
It's pretty good. It depends.
Is it pretty easy to get by? Is it hard to get by? Out of the 5 boroughs, the Bronx is the poorest out of the 5 boroughs.
That's true.
Yeah, that is true though. I ain't gonna lie.
Why is it so complicated and hard to live here in the Bronx?
I mean, you can sit by yourself around, you know.
There's a lot of crackheads, drugs, and shit ruin people's lives, bro. I ain't gonna lie.
Would you consider the Bronx to be an accurate image of what New York City is like, being part of the 5 boroughs?
That's the most accurate part of New York. This is the real New York, because even though the people that you see over there, like in Manhattan or in any other places, most of the people is from the Bronx, because the Bronx is where the rent is less high.
And how much is rent here?
Depends. Rent could be $400 a month for every individual. Depends the kind of deal you got in it. But it's not.
When you say deal, do you mean like the deal you make with the government for Section 8 housing?
The Section 8 housing, the welfare housing.
What percentage of people would you say are living off government benefits here in the Bronx?
I say like 99%.
You would expect Section 8 to be bad, bro, but there's the new buildings that's coming out with the Section 8, laundromat, gym, all that, bro. You'd be surprised in the projects, all that, bro. It's getting nice, bro, with that Section 8, bro, that government assistance, I ain't gonna lie.
Are you guys living on Section 8?
Oh, me, yeah.
Yeah.
How would you describe life here in the Bronx?
Sucks.
Why does it suck?
Because it's New York, where all the crack is, all that shit is at. And New York sucks. I'm sorry, I've been living here for 42 years, and it sucks. It really sucks, boss.
What's life out here in the Bronx?
Beautiful. It feels like a third world country. You get to live life and see it for what it is. Some people that live like celebrities, they regret not being able to come outside because they're afraid that people will jump on top of them. I love it because the kids got the freedom of moving everywhere they want to move and do everything they got to do.
He said life here sucks.
No, it doesn't suck, because you'd rather have the freedom of being able to move and enjoy life for what it is than being segregated.
How much money does somebody need to make here to live good in the Bronx?
You should be able to make at least $60 a day to live good in the Bronx.
Between the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Staten Island, how would you compare the Bronx to a borough like Manhattan?
I mean, the Bronx, in terms of violence, like per capita, like it's probably like number 1 or 2. I want to say like Brooklyn and the Bronx used to always be back and forth, but Brooklyn has got gentrified a lot. They're trying to gentrify a little bit out here, but the Bronx is almost always number 1 for violence.
Oh, look right here. Like, look right here. We got something happening right here in the park. Somebody's stealing something. Now he just bit him.
You can clearly see they're on something, you know.
And what makes it so hard to live here and survive in the Bronx?
Economics aside, just the surroundings, you know. It's like it's a rough area, high crime rate. It's like you don't get the same amenities that you would get like in a suburban town, you know. Like, you know, there's not a lot of after school activities for kids. So as you can see, like when kids get let out of school, it's almost like kids all over the place are just, you know, and that's a little kid right there.
Yeah, they just came and flashed the camera. Look, we got some kids coming here. Look, we got kids popping out of here.
Yeah. So
they see the camera and they pop out.
You know, that'll be like a 12, 13.
What are you doing?
So yeah.
Look, now we just got some more kids going out.
Yeah. So
Yelling,
it
screaming.
gets.
Like, what's going on here in the Bronx?
Yeah.
Look at this. No regard for anybody. They're yelling, pushing kids over. Shoes are falling off. How hard is it to survive here in the Bronx?
It's not that hard. You just gotta survive. You gotta maintain. You gotta have a steady mindset.
Matt, how would you compare the Bronx to Manhattan?
There's nothing compared to the Manhattan. I'm gonna be honest with you. Manhattan is beautiful, but the Bronx is poverty. Let's talk about it. It's most poverty people that live out here.
Why do you think the Bronx has created a place where there is so much poverty?
Because of the low-income people, blacks, Hispanics, immigrants, stuff like that. You see all these new buildings being created. We live in poverty, bro. If you've seen the burnt-down Bronx from years then, the Bronx came a long way, brother.
Do you think it's a problem with the system, or do you think it's a problem with mindsets of individuals?
I think it's both. I honestly think it's both.
And how much money would you consider a good month here in the Bronx, or a good income?
It depends, because some people are on Section 8, some people are on government assistance, so it all depends on your income and what you're trying to get.
But if you're trying to live good here and provide for a family of you and your son and your wife, how much do you think you need to be making?
Probably like $1,000, maybe $800.
Really? So you can survive just making $1,000 here in the Bronx if you are on Section 8?
That's just including your rent and your light bill. That's not including the food expense costs and the rise of food that's increasing throughout the years. Because obviously food is increasing. Eggs was just $10 a month. So everything's increasing, you know what I'm saying?
Wow. How hard is it to survive here financially in the Bronx?
Well, it's really hard because of the rent. The rent in the Bronx is like the worst problem that we have. It's not only in the Bronx, it's in the community. Like everywhere, the rent is so high that you got to do so many things to survive.
What's the average rent somebody is going to have to pay here if they're not on Section 8?
For a 2-bedroom apartment, it will be $3,500.
And do you think Section 8 kind of incentivizes people to stay poor? That way they can stay inside of the brackets to get the cheap housing?
I would say so. It got to be another way. I'll say so. But however, we need Section 8 to survive. Otherwise, how can we do it? And if we make certain amount of money, a little bit of money, more money, then we don't get that support.
Yes,
and it's hard.
It's kind of like twisted, because if you do well, then you're going to be paying more. But if you
That's crazy.
If you pay,
I have a
make
bachelor's
less.
degree in clinical psychology. If I go to work, a regular job, I won't be getting any help. I could only come out here whenever I got a little time to make extra money to survive.
What's a good day of business like out here?
I'm not gonna respond to that.
No, we can't do that for taxes, right? We can't do that for taxes,
No,
right?
I didn't say that.
Now, there's a reason why this lady, despite having a college degree, is working on the streets only accepting cash, and that's because of what's called the poverty trap. And you must understand this about government benefits in Section 8. They were designed to help low-income families afford housing, but there's a catch. Let's say you're a single mom in New York City making $30,000 a year, you qualify for Section 8, and maybe you're only paying $500 a month for rent while the government covers the rest. But the moment your income rises, maybe you get a raise or a better job, the system starts taking away your benefits. Your rent goes up, and if you make too much money, you lose Section 8 entirely, which means if you go from making $30,000 to $45,000, you might actually not feel richer because you're actually losing money, because you'll have to pay market value for rent, making you actually poorer than you were just making $30,000 a year. So you stay poor, you keep your housing, you try to level up, and suddenly you're punished. This is why it's called the poverty trap, and politicians know that this is a way to control the people. If you make more money, you lose your benefits. They silently say, stay poor and we'll provide for you, but don't worry, we will still blame the rich for keeping you poor. And before we leave the Bronx and head into Manhattan, I want to take you guys to one of the infamous projects inside of the Bronx. What's life like in a project here in the Bronx?
Well, just to give you a reference, you know it's not going to be the safest place when there's a warning sign that clearly says stop warning. So for most people it's chill because they know the people, but you can always find some dicey individuals, you know?
Right as we walked into the project, we were welcomed by one of the OGs on the corner.
I'm the ambassador. That's the DJ. That's OG. That's Harlem World.
How hard is it to survive here in the Bronx?
Very hard. Very hard. But if you have respect, you get respect. But now with the youngest nowadays, they don't have no respect. But if you know how to deal with them at a point, then they respect you.
We headed into the project, and my friend Jesus made an interesting comparison between the projects and the prison. This is kind of different than I was expecting.
Yeah, so the problem with the projects is they almost, like, the architectural design, these have been here for like decades, and they're like this brick layer, it's like synonymous with the exact same architecture that they use in the jails. So you're almost like institutionalized to normalize like this type of living environment. Like if you go to like Rikers Island, like the walls look just like this.
Really?
Yeah.
From the Bronx, we head to Manhattan just to see how different life was between the rich and the poor, and eventually make our way all the way to Billionaire Row. And before we go to Manhattan, there's something that a lot of us don't even think about that puts us all at risk, and that's us just simply using the internet. There's threats all around, and that's why the sponsor of this video is so important, and that is why I use Surfshark VPN. If you're anything like me, you're always using public Wi-Fi, whether it be at the airport or at your favorite restaurant. However, when you connect to the internet using Surfshark, all your information is encrypted and it keeps you safe and away from trackers and hackers. And when you're using Surfshark, you can even get the best prices available for your flights, hotels, or any everyday items when you use Surfshark when you're surfing the internet. And on top of all of that, Surfshark also comes with an antivirus scanner that will notify you immediately if you ever accidentally download any malicious apps or files. And Surfshark is so confident in their VPN that they're offering a 30-day money-back guarantee, so go to surfshark.com/Shirley and use code Shirley at checkout to get an extra 4 months of Surfshark VPN. And now let's get back in the video and let's go to Manhattan. And I do gotta say, it is a lot different compared to the Bronx. Now we're gonna head over to the East Village, where the average rent for an apartment is around $4,500 a month. After you're done paying your rent, your taxes, and your groceries, how much money do you have left over?
I'm usually borrowing money.
Really? So you're borrowing money every month just to stay afloat?
My mother-in-law has to help me out, and then I have to give it back to her, so yeah.
Some people here are just going in debt trying to survive.
Yep, basically. I want to move out of New York, but I can't.
And why can't you move out of New York?
I'm born and raised. This is where I belong.
So even though you're going into debt to survive here in New York City, you still prefer to live here than any other city in the world?
Yeah, kind of stupid, but yeah.
And why is that?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. I have no clue. It's kind of stupid, but yeah.
And do you think the government, or do you think the government leaders here are doing enough to bring down prices?
No, because they just cut my medical insurance for me and my kids because I make too much money.
Because you make too much money?
Uh-huh. According to the government, I make too much money.
So how much do you have to be making to get any benefits from the government?
Obviously less than what I make.
And are you paying state, federal, and city tax?
Mm-hmm.
So you're getting taxed 3 times versus somebody who lives outside of New York City who gets taxed just twice.
Yep.
Wow. And you choose to stay here?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Another thing that makes it tough about living in New York City is that versus just paying state and federal tax, you also have an added New York City tax on all the residents that live inside of New York City. And I met this guy who decided to move out of his house onto the street and now lives rent-free on the street with all of his belongings.
Got sick of paying rent, did really well for myself for 10 years, so I'm taking like a early midlife, possibly permanent, we'll see how it goes, retirement.
Are you gonna be living out here on the streets now or what?
Yeah, till I decide it's not for me. It's kind of freeing not have to pay rent and only having like a P.O. box and cell phone bill as my overhead. Really, probably one of the only ways I'll be able to save money and travel and whatnot.
So what do you plan to do with all this stuff right here you have on the street corner?
Keep it.
And is anybody heckling you for being out here on the corner with all your stuff?
Not too bad, no.
Wow, so instead of paying $4,500 for rent or $1,100 for rent, you've chosen to take your stuff out here and be on the street?
Yep.
And you think more New Yorkers and other people are going to start doing the same thing because the rent's so high here?
More than likely, yeah. I've already had probably in the past 2 weeks 5 or 10 people saying, not a bad idea. Maybe we could share real estate here. I said, public sidewalk, do what you want. And that's, kind of my attitude. Live and let live.
And nobody comes by and said, hey, you can't sleep here on public sidewalk?
Nope. Have not had anyone say that yet.
And now you feel just as comfortable living in an apartment as you do here on the public sidewalk with your lawn chair?
I feel more comfortable without the overhead, without having to worry if I booked a vacation, are they going to get me off? Am I going to need to cancel the flight? Do I need to buy travel insurance, vacation insurance? I don't have to worry about any of that. I can pick up and go, throw this stuff in one of the units and do what I want. Just kind of be untethered and not have bills and rent and electric, and it's really freeing. It's really freeing. This is probably the most stress-free and comfortable I've been in probably since I moved here.
Instead of having to pay the extreme rent here inside of New York City, this man's moved out here onto the street. He's sunbathing right now. He's got his eyes closed. He's just having a great day out here. And he's moved his pallets out here. This is what he sleeps on. versus paying the extreme rent here in New York City versus an apartment like these right here that go for just $4,500 a month for a one-bedroom studio apartment. He's decided to move himself out here onto the streets, taking the apartment outside and sleeping out here on the public sidewalk. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how hard would you say it is to survive here in New York City?
10. It's not built for everybody.
How much does somebody need to make here in New York City to live good?
I'm gonna give you like a high answer right now, but it's like, it really depends.
How much is a lot? You say high, you might be high yourself right now, but how much is high?
Well, like,
You're looking to move here, you could get a really shitty apartment, but for the most part, let's say average, at least over $2,000 a month. In Manhattan, you could live up in the Bronx or Brooklyn and get a little bit cheaper, but you're taking a risk there. Food-wise, I would say probably you want to set aside at least $500 a month. And then on top of that, going out, I mean, like a tequila soda here is $10, $12. So like, I mean, obviously if you're budgeting, you may not be able to do that. Or on top of rent, I would put aside at least $1,000, $1,500 for expenses. So that's $3K, $3,500 a month.
And that's before even taxes.
Yes. So yeah, no, it's tough to live here. And then what's it like to date here? That's another thing.
I mean, there's a lot of beautiful women here in New York City.
There's a lot, but then if you don't have any money, now of course love is a little bit, it's more than just money, but you go on a first date, you want to pay, and if you don't have the money, it's tough. So
they could just go to Billionaire Row over there.
Yeah, you could maybe get a sugar mama, sugar daddy. There's a lot of people like that. One thing you'll notice about New York if you move here, a lot of people are funded by their parents. Maybe not 100%, and that's cool. Like if your parents want to do that, but if you're by yourself and you're just trying to make it in this city, it can be tough. It can be really difficult.
You want a nice lady to take out for dinner tonight. How much is that going to cost you?
Oh, well, it depends where you want to go. Probably first date with money. First date and probably want to go drinks. Maybe do 1 drink, 2 drinks. I mean, even if it may be a little bit risky, but you may want to ask, hey, can we split it?
Can we split it? Really?
I would never say that.
You're going to hit him with, can you split it?
Look, you can see it. I would never split it. But I'm saying, if you have no money, like maybe.
A little dine and dash action here.
I do not recommend any dine and dashing. But yes, I mean, people do what they have to do.
And do New Yorkers get taxed too much?
Of course, it's a joke. I mean, look, there's trash everywhere. I don't know how much more we have to get taxed to pick up the trash on the side of the street. It's disgusting.
What does it take to be able to survive here in New York City?
A lot of patience. I'm about to be 40. The way my mother raised me, I've been working since the age of 16. I had a manager job since the age of 17. For instance, this is Manhattan. If you go up to 116th Street in Manhattan, that's called Harlem, but it's still considered Manhattan. You're paying the same prices they're paying down the street down here on 34th Street to live up there.
Really? So no matter where you're at here in Manhattan, you're paying the same price whether you're in Harlem or if you're down here on Fifth Ave?
Yeah, and now since Manhattan is getting away with it, now the other boroughs are starting to do it. The Bronx starting to do it, Queens starting to do it. They're now saying, well, this is the average price in all New York.
And if you want to buy food here in New York City, expect to pay 30% more than the nationwide average. Inside of bodegas and inside of grocery stores, prices are extremely high. If I want to drink an energy drink here in New York City, it's going to cost me around $6 for an energy drink. And for a small box of cereal, you're going to be paying about $8 for this box right here. And because crime is so high, they even have to lock up things like freaking Twinkies and Oreos. After exploring the daily survival it takes from the rich to the poor, it was time to go to the richest part in all of New York City, Billionaire Row, where an average apartment here can cost you anywhere from $30 million to $110 million. Ma'am, you're living here on $Billion Row here in New York City.
I'm in the $1 billion, yes, this is the $1 billion row, 57, 58, and 59 between 6 and all the way up to Columbus Circus.
What does it take to live here?
Well, you have to have money because let's say if you're going to rent an apartment, a studio apartment where I live has a doorman, it has the laundry, it's a 5-star building. It's about $4,000 for a small studio. A 1-bedroom is about $5,000, a little over. So you have to have some money.
Wow. And what did you do to get all your money?
Well, I am retired. I was a prima ballerina. And I did other things too. I designed. I worked for Valentino, the designer. I was the assistant of the director. After my ballet career was over, because it's a short career, I did a lot of things. I had my own store at the Plaza Hotel. I'm very creative. So you have to be creative.
And how much money do you think someone needs to have in their bank account to be living here on $1 Billion Row?
At least $1 million, I think. or you have to make have a very good salary, make at least $5,000 a week.
Are you seeing a lot of trust fund babies moving in here to Billionaire Row?
Yes, yeah, lots. They graduate from college, and the parents move them to Manhattan, mostly from Greenwich Village, from Greenwich, Connecticut.
Life would be great as a trust fund baby, right?
Absolutely.
Don't we all wish we were all trust fund babies?
Yes.
We're on Billionaire Row here in New York City. What does it take to survive here in New York?
Well, I think you have to have a little luck, and you have to be able to have some kind of a plan about a career or some way to make money, because today it's not that easy. When I first arrived 50 years ago, it was a lot easier.
What's good money today here in New York City?
For one person, well, I think you would have to make at least 6 figures, to survive. But I don't think, that's not doable for a lot of people. New York is not an easy place, but it's the best place to possibly have a life.
If you're living rich, life's amazing. You can walk outside of your door, go to Louis Vuitton, go to Gucci, be able to afford a $450 gym membership. But if you're not, life might be a daily struggle here inside of the biggest city and largest city in all of America. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, go ahead, subscribe, drop a like, and I'll see you guys next video.